When was the last time you saw someone rocking a cool armor set or a sword in the game and you instantly knew that it's just probably sitting somewhere on the map waiting for you? You don't need to grind through the story or the side missions, and you definitely don't need to buy it through microtransactions. All you probably need is location on the map and you can just go there and get it. This is the kind of experience that Crimson Desert's offering. The best looking armor sets and weapons are not locked behind paywalls, they're most probably locked in a chest behind a waterfall or a fake wall. A few days ago, I saw someone rocking the super badass hooded cape and I was like, yeah, I want this right now. Now, I'm only like 30 hours into this game, still at chapter 3, and I haven't even fully explored the entire region of Hernan. But I searched on YouTube, found a bunch of guides on where to get this cloak, and it was all the way east of Nemnis. So I just set a waypoint there on the map and started the journey, which should have taken me maybe half an hour, ended up taking 3. Because I kept getting distracted by every cool looking thing I could see in the distance. At one point I came across this random tall ass tower in the middle of nowhere. I climbed it up only to find out that there was a puzzle inside. I figured out some of it but couldn't really crack the whole thing, and after Cliff fell down and died in a tragic accident, I decided to move on and continue with my journey. Then after finding some sealed abyss artifacts, solving a couple of more puzzles successfully, and just mowing down tons of enemies along the way, eventually I ran into these black and yellow guards who pretty much control the whole region of Demonis for now. And they are no joke. They handed me my ass pretty quickly, and as I scrambled to escape, I came across this abandoned watchtower. Here I stumbled upon 2 trapdoors that could be opened using the force bomb ability, and behind both of them there were chests, one containing a badass looking pair of gloves and the other one contained a pair of boots. Then I continued on my path only to get distracted again, finding some more stuff along the way until I finally reached the waterfall I was looking for. The point is, even though I set out just to find the cool cape, I came back with 2 pairs of gloves, 2 pairs of boots, a long sword, a broken armor I found lying around near another waterfall, 20 gold ores, a dozen abyss artifacts, oh, and some high heels for Damien as well. After that little adventure, I fast traveled back to camp to finally do a main quest, and the quest I ended up starting is the best quest in the game by far. Like, the whole tone of the game suddenly shifted: the music, the environment, and investigating a home full of dead bodies trying to figure out what the hell happened here reminded me a lot of The Witcher 3. And after I finally found the Greymanes and came face to face with the Reed Devil himself for the very first time, I was aching to play some more, but it was already 1 in the morning, and I'm a grown-ass man with responsibilities, so I did the right thing and played the game till 3. Now, you're probably wondering, why is this guy telling us all this? Before diving into what's actually going on, I thought it best to share my experience as a simple gamer dude who bought this game with his own money and has been having a blast ever since. Because while I was enjoying playing Crimson Desert, something weird was going on that I noticed just now. The gaming media has been pumping out hit pieces after hit pieces for Crimson Desert, even after essentially review bombing the game. Especially IGN, as they're really trying to justify the review score for it, but more on that in just a bit. Let's first talk about the review for Marathon that they just published. Now, as I've said before, Marathon isn't a bad game, but it's certainly uninspired. It's the same old AAA live service slop that we have seen time and time and time again. Yet the exact same guy who gave Crimson Desert a 6 gave Marathon a 9. Let that sink in. And just in case you don't remember, this is the same guy who gave Concord a 7, Highguard a 7, and Avowed a 7 as well. Not to mention they waited 25 days to finally review Marathon because Bungie asked nicely, I guess. Now, here's where things get really interesting, because after painfully reading through this sales page for Marathon, this professional reviewer literally complained about more or less the same problems that he complained about in the Crimson Desert review. Only here, these problems are somehow a good thing. He says that the UI is a war crime. He complains about character not being able to climb a ledge because of bad geometry, how the movement in general is bad, how severe the fall damage is even when falling from moderate heights, and how the heat gauge slows things down quite a bit. But since Bungie is a big Western studio, these limitations served as interesting obstacles to this guy, because of course they did. He also complained about the onboarding being quite tough since very little is explained, despite the fact that he had played many extraction shooters in the past and Bungie gave him crash courses during preview sessions, but still, in his own words, it was quite puzzling. He complained about the confusing mods loss and the upgrade menus taking a while to fully understand, and how it takes a few hours of playing to get the hang of some pretty basic stuff. The worst part, according to him, are the extremely poorly explained mission objectives that are sometimes represented by a single floating icon. On top of that, he was also disappointed at having only 4 maps at launch. And finally, he went on and complained about the heroes being generic and how they're not well balanced either, which in my opinion is a pretty big problem to have in a goddamn hero shooter. I mean, there's a lot of problems and added layers of friction that he faced in this game as well, most of which is quite similar to what he complained about in Crimson Desert. You know, things like unusual controls, difficulty spikes, clunky gameplay, and the fact that the game does a poor job at explaining certain systems, most of which has been patched now, by the way, unlike in the case of Marathon, where pretty much all the problems are still there according to this review. But despite all that, he gave Marathon a 9. And then there's Polygon backing it up. Critics have decided that they love Marathon, which means it's on its way to the Game Awards. Initial reactions were cautiously optimistic, but many still found the game alienating. Bungie asked press to withhold full reviews until its endgame map, Cryo Archive, landed a few weeks later after release, but a few went ahead anyway, as if it's an unforgivable sin. The game has a $40 price tag and it's available to buy. It should be reviewed as it is, just like Crimson Desert was reviewed. But anyways, reading on. A week ago, Marathon's Metacritic rating stood at 74. Now it's 82 and rising. Cryo Archive is dropped and is getting rave reviews, as well as some concern trolling about its forbidding difficulty and high barrier to entry. PC Gamer has published its full Marathon review and slapped it with a 9 out of 10. So have Games Radar and Game Informer. Now that they have got their heads around it, critics love this game. And just check this out. Marathon is not a big hit, and its sale performance will no doubt be disappointing to Bungie's paymasters at Sony, but one demographic is all in, and it's the game's media. So no matter how the sales numbers or Steam charts look like, the game's media is the deciding factor in what game goes to the Game Awards. And Marathon is currently sitting at 81 on Metacritic with 37 reviews. Meanwhile, Crimson Desert is sitting at 77 with 100. My question is, when did 77 become a bad score? Not to mention that the user scores have been increasing for Crimson Desert on both Metacritic and Steam as well. But of course, no one even bothers mentioning them because, you know, you and your opinions don't matter, you basement-dwelling chuds. In fact, in the article where IGN shamelessly compared Crimson Desert to Cyberpunk, trying to imply that it's a broken mess that will probably take forever to fix, which is just stupid to say the least, this is what they had to say. If you already like Crimson Desert's approach, I think there's a genuine possibility that it could be a contender for your Game of the Year by summer. Your Game of the Year. Not just the Game of the Year, your Game of the Year. And it doesn't stop there either, because in the desperate attempt to somehow validate their bad review for Crimson Desert, they also tried weaponizing the humility and self-awareness of the Pearl Abyss CEO to support their narrative. Crimson Desert's story has become the subject of criticism ever since Pearl Abyss's sprawling open-world action-adventure launched last week. While some players are perfectly happy treating Crimson Desert as more of a sandbox game than a story-driven adventure, most agree that the actual plot, storyline, and characters leave a lot to be desired. It turns out Pearl Abyss CEO Hyojin Young agrees that Crimson Desert's story could have been better. I sympathize to some extent with the disappointment users feel regarding the story. I think it would have been nice if we could have done a better job with it. The production team tried to make up for the shortcomings in the remaining time, but ultimately we focused on strengthening the gameplay, which is what we do best. And it makes perfect sense in my opinion because they never advertised RDR2 levels of storytelling. They clearly communicated that Crimson Desert is more of an action sandbox game, something more like the Just Cause games but with a shit ton of deep and interconnected systems and an open world filled to the brim with content, which is the biggest strength of this game. The point is that this game has an entirely different framework. This is not an RPG or a story-driven experience. And for the sake of this argument, even if it were a story-driven experience, why are these people pretending that it's the worst thing ever? These are the same people who gave Star Wars Outlaws a 7, AC Shadows an 8, and Dragon Age the Veilguard a 9. Self-proclaimed story-driven RPGs that neither deliver a strong gameplay experience nor a compelling narrative. And I'm sure most of you probably didn't even remember Star Wars Outlaws until I brought it up just now. That's how bland and shallow that game was. Crimson Desert is reported to have a development budget of around $130 million, and I think that's without the marketing. With marketing, it would realistically be around $260 million or probably $300 million. Any other big AAA studio would eat up around $500 to $700 million to make a game as system heavy as Crimson Desert. But still, that's a lot of money, so it makes sense that they would cut corners somewhere, and in this case, they chose compromise on the story. Is it a good choice? I don't think so. The reason I say that is because the game has the bones and the complete framework of telling a great story. The seamless transitions between gameplay and cutscenes is there, the music is great, the performance capture is solid, and even the English voice acting is fairly decent overall. The only thing they needed was some good writing, and that's probably it. So to be honest, it's just a bit disappointing to see all that potential go to waste. But still, the main story as well as the side quests are okay enough to keep you going and caring for the world. And considering how much the game is offering and how much they focused on attention to detail to make the world feel alive and reactive is just mind-blowing. I mean, just today I was walking around the camp and this random woman walked up to me to thank me for taking out the Stag Lord and gifted me a dagger. I did the Stag Lord boss fight literally a day before this encounter, so seeing things like this makes me appreciate the game even more, because I never expected that to happen. I went to the edge of the map and instead of running into an invisible wall, the weather effects just started going crazy. And when I tried rowing a boat out of bounds, suddenly a whale jumped out of the ocean and ate me. When you send your comrades on a mission, you can literally see them doing the task in real time. This is a level of attention to detail that you can only expect from a Rockstar game, and those games cost almost 2 to 3 times more to make. On top of all that, Pearl Abyss isn't treating us like trash, they're treating us like actual paying customers by listening to our complaints and continuously improving the game with huge game-changing patches. I mean, in the most recent update of the game, they have changed some more things that the players complain about. They gave us 5 more summonable mounts, pressing left on the D-pad now cancels draw if you accidentally pull out your bow. I still end up doing that sometimes thanks to muscle memory. They increased the fast travel loading speed, adding an attraction button for locked doors to give players a choice if they want to use a key to unlock it or not, made the controls a bit more snappier so Cliff doesn't feel like an unstoppable train like Arthur or Geralt used to feel like. One of the things that I just complained about in my last video a few days ago also got fixed, and now the stamina consumption for gliding has been reduced by a great deal, which to be honest has made exploring this gorgeous open world way more convenient. And this one just blew my mind. Change the mechanics of aerial stab because there was an unintended issue that allowed the skill to be used repeatedly in mid-air. Aerial stab was adjusted so that it can still be used as a fun movement mechanic without disrupting overall game balance. I mean, instead of just removing it, they balanced it and even went out of their way to add some more animations to make it look smoother and turn it into an actual game mechanic. Who does that? They're also trying to upgrade the visual on the base PS5, and while there's not a night and day difference just yet, I can definitely see some improvement, and that makes me hopeful that in the upcoming days, the game might end up looking significantly better in low-light environments as well. The point is, each and every day I play this game, I'm playing a better version of it. And this is the reason why the game sold 3 million copies within a week of release, and now they've crossed the 4 million mark. The ratings on Steam have now changed from mostly positive to very positive, and on Metacritic, the user score has climbed all the way up to 8.8, and at this rate it's gonna be 9 in no time. The game has also hit a new peak of 270,000 players over this weekend. The community is growing and the people have been finding mind-blowing stuff in the open world. So I can very confidently say that this is not a 6 out of 10 game. So IGN can try spinning it in any way they want to somehow rationalize their bad take, but it's never been more clear that they have lost all of their institutional credibility. So my question is, what is even the point of these gaming media outlets now? Because to be very honest, I'm sick and tired of the arrogance and the hubris of these game journals who act all high and mighty and look down at the very gamers they're supposed to represent. And at this point, I think that these so-called critic reviews should just be removed. Outlets like IGN should only be limited to dropping trailers and delivering gaming news, but they should absolutely stop making any kind of reviews whatsoever. Because like it or not, these professional reviews still hold some authority. The mixed reception of Crimson Desert absolutely tanking the Pearl Abyss's share price is a living proof of that. And considering how they're now glazing Marathon, these reviews will only prompt Sony to triple down on the live service model and keep failing and losing money over and over again. The worst part is that these game journals won't feel any repercussions because they'll keep getting their access. And make no mistake, the big companies will also recoup their losses by raising the prices, and we're actually seeing this happen in real time with PlayStation, but that's a topic for another video. At the end of the day, it's you, the paying customer, that will feel it the worst. It's your wallet that's going to be impacted the most. But anyways, I'll leave you at that. Do let me know your thoughts on this whole Crimson Desert situation in the comments down below. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you found the video valuable. Also use the hype feature so my video gets more exposure and my small channel blows up. I would really appreciate the support. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.